Hello there, friends. It's Jimmy Maverick. Welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Maverick Podcast. Today, we've got your Week 13 matchups, starts, and sits. Important information you need to know about if you are in a fantasy playoff already or if you're about to be in a fantasy playoff. These things are important to know to set your lineups for this week. So check it out. Here we go.
Listen up. It's time for the Fantasy Maverick Podcast, starring the guy who's going to help you win that fantasy championship, Jimmy Maverick.
Hello there, friends. It's Jimmy Maverick. Welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Maverick Podcast, heading into Week 13. And normally I am joined by Swami Rob, but unfortunately Swami has gotten swamped at work, and so he is not available this week. So it's just going to be me going over the Week 13 matchups and hopefully helping you with your lineups and knowing who to start and who to sit. So we're going to go through each game and we're going to talk about what players look good, what players don't look good, and hopefully this will help you out. I got two big money games happening this weekend, Fantasy Football Player Championship games. Week 13 is the championship game, and it looks like in one of them I am slightly favored, and in the other one I'm slightly an underdog. And when it comes to, when it comes to the playoffs, man, it all comes down, really a lot of it has to do with the matchups, and if you get a great player on a bad matchup and that player tanks for you, that's it. There's no, so this is important stuff to go over. So let's just get right to it, man. So this week we've got both Tampa Bay and Carolina on a bye. That takes a lot of critical fantasy players off the board this week. Even though I didn't invest too heavily in either of these teams, I do have a lot of shares of Robbie Anderson. And so, obviously he's sitting on my bench right now and you got to find someone to fill that hole. But let's start now. There's no Thursday night game either. No Thursday night game. So let's start with the Sunday early games. We got the Browns at the Titans. Both these teams are at 8-3 and coming at me from the beginning of the season, the Browns would certainly be the more surprising team to have an 8-3 record at this part, but that's pretty good. But my question is can anybody stop Derrick Henry? The guy just gets stronger as the season goes on, and I got annihilated in one of my leagues last week because my opponent had not only Derrick Henry but Tyreek Hill. Just blew me out of the water. Didn't matter. Scored 161 points. I had an awesome week. The second most points scored in the league that week, but it didn't matter. He got over 200, and so what are you going to do? But this game looks like a fantasy goldmine. I mean, neither one of these defenses is particularly formidable. And it looks like there's going to be a lot of ground game going on here. So I think Chubb and Hunt are also absolute must starts. Really, everybody's a start. The Titans defense just terrible, man. They are top 10 for opposing quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. So that's all the Browns critical players that you want. Start them. I'm starting Jarvis Landry again. I told you last week that he was going to get his first touchdown in Week 12. He did. I think he gets another one this week. I think it's going to be that kind of a game. Likewise on the other side, man, all Titans. Start them, man. A.J. Brown, Ryan Tannehill. They're all good. Everybody's good. There's nobody that's a sit on either one of these teams. Looking forward to a lot of fantasy points, and I do have a lot of shares of players, at least from the Browns. I got a lot of Browns players on my team, so just go with that. Next game. Now this one should also be a pretty good fantasy game for at least one of the teams. Raiders, 6-5 Raiders at the Jets, 0-11 Jets. And, the Raiders, obviously, last week, that meltdown against Atlanta. I don't know what was going on there, but anyway, Raiders did not show up ready to play. But this just seems like the perfect opportunity for a get-right game. And, again, the Jets defense is absolutely horrendous. Top 10 for opposing quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. So guess what? All the Raiders are a start. Obviously you got to be gutsy if you're going to start Derek Carr. He's been so up and down. I'm not sure if I would be willing to stream him, but it's a great matchup. He'll probably do just fine. I think everybody's going to do fine on the Raiders. On the other side of the ball, man, the Jets, well, Jameson Crowder, he's good. He's good to go. I think he will do just fine. But I got to tell you, man, here's my dark horse pickup of the week. If you are in desperate need of a running back, Frank Gore. Why not? It's a great matchup. Let's see here. Top 4. It's a top 4 matchup. And the past 2 weeks, Frank Gore has gotten over 10 points, 10 fantasy points. That's pretty good if you are desperate for someone in your flex position. So I actually do have a waiver claim out on Frank Gore in one of my leagues where I went a 0 running back strategy. So really, I'm riding with James White and Giovanni Bernard right now. But if I can pick up Frank Gore, I'd take Frank Gore over Giovanni Bernard right now. So anyway, that's where I'm at with that. Next one up. Here's another one. Great matchups, man. Jaguars 1-10 versus the Vikings at 5-6. Starts everywhere. So these are great games for fantasy. DJ Chark, if he plays, he gets a top 3 matchup. James Robinson has been just absolutely fantastic running back this year for fantasy, especially relative to his draft position. Was absolutely. I wish I had gotten him in more of my leagues. I only got him in about 4 of my leagues. I wish I had him in all, and I would have absolutely taken him way earlier than I ended up taking him if I knew he was going to be this good. As far as a streaming option, I talked about this for streaming options for quarterbacks. Man, Kirk Cousins coming off of two consecutive 300-yard, 3-touchdown performances, and now he gets the Jags. Yes, that is absolutely perfect. Likewise, Jags defense, top 10 for quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers. So start all the Vikings. They're actually also good for tight ends, but I'm not going to recommend starting either Kyle Rudolph or Irv Smith. But, absolutely, all the Vikings, good to go this week. Adam Thielen is back. Absolutely a start. And unfortunately, in these championship games, in my 2 championship games, in one game, I have Adam Thielen, and in the other game, the opposing guy has Adam Thielen. So I'm going to be in that damn conundrum where I'm like, well, do good, not too good, but do good, so I can somehow squeak out 2 victories, which is what I want, man. All right, next up. All right, we got another one. Bengals, the 2-8-1 Bengals at the Dolphins, 7-4. Dolphins looking pretty good. What I heard today is that Fitz is going to get sat again in favor of Tua, although if Tua is not at 100%, it's going to be Fitz. And, Fitzpatrick is, he is, if he goes, he's a great start this week. I'm not sure I would start Tua if he's the starter, but Fitz, you got to start him if he's playing. So, that's what's going on there. One start I do want to mention that I do like is Mike Gesicki, who gets a top 5 matchup here. Now, he has gotten pretty low volume, only 5 targets in each of the past 3 games. But he's been catching balls. And, if he gets you a touchdown, hey, that makes it worth it, right? That makes it absolutely worth it. Let's go on. We got the 7-4 Colts against the 4-7 Texans. Now, last week for the Colts, Michael Pittman really laid an egg, man. He got like 2 catches for 18 yards, something terrible like that. But what I focus on is the volume. And the volume was excellent, 9 targets. So he had a bad game in a game that really kind of got out of hand for Indy. That was kind of a shock. The Indy defense is so vaunted, and they got their butts kicked in just about every way by Tennessee. So anyway, I think Michael Pittman bounces back very strong this week. Top 2 matchup. You got to take advantage of that. I would absolutely start Michael Pittman. Don't put him on your bench. Houston is top 2 for opposing running backs, which is great. But again, that backfield is a mess. It's a total question mark, a dice roll. If you were to start anyone, I think JT is probably your best bet. Jonathan Taylor, he's coming off the COVID IR list. He didn't play last week, but in week 11 he did great. So I think he's probably going to be the primary back. But you know what? You never know with this backfield. So start at your own risk. We already talked about the Indy defense getting shredded by Derrick Henry. I don't think that's going to happen again with Duke Johnson this week, so I would not start Duke Johnson. And as far as Houston goes, man, the loss of Will Fuller really hurts Deshaun Watson, and it's a tough matchup. So Deshaun Watson is a sit for me. I would absolutely sit him. But on the flip side, I do like Brandon Cooks just because he's the best receiver they have. So, anyway, if you're wondering what happened to Will Fuller, he got a PED suspension. He's out for 6 games, performance-enhancing drugs. So, anyway, yeah, he's out. That's another poor showing by a contract year player, and it really was more like poor judgment that happened. But that's what's going on there. Let's see here. Okay, so next up, we got the 4-7 Lions at the 5-6 Bears. Both these teams seem to be falling apart right now. The only player I really like on the Bears on the Lions this week is TJ Hawkinson. He has been doing actually very well. Top 3 matchup to boot. So he's the best option there. I wouldn't start anyone else. I wouldn't start Stafford. I wouldn't start Jones. Galladay is probably not going to play. I wouldn't start any of those guys until Galladay comes back. Then I'd be more willing to roster Matthew Stafford. A really super disappointing year for Galladay too. Another contract year player, just blew it, man. Just horrendous injuries, and it just sucks. It just sucks if you happen to take him. I had high expectations for him. Let's see here. The Detroit defense offers top 10 matchups for the quarterback, wide receiver, and running back position. So I think Allen Robinson, David Montgomery, and Darnell Mooney are all starts. And if you're desperate, which I am in one of my leagues, Mitch Trubisky. Why not? It's a terrible defense. I think he's a good streaming option this week. And he did all right last week. He got 3 touchdowns. 280 yards passing or something like that. That's good enough for fantasy, man. I mean, you got the 2 interceptions, but this is a much cushier defense. So I think he's a good desperation start if you need him. The only guy on that I really don't like on the Bears is Jimmy Graham. Bottom 3 matchup, and he has not been getting a lot of volume lately. It's only like 2 or 3 targets a game, just not worth anything at all. So don't start Jimmy Graham. Next up, we got the 9-2 Saints at the 4-7 Falcons, and obviously, when these guys met 2 weeks ago, Saints totally took care of business, took them down very easily. But it was Taysom's first game as the starting quarterback. Now, all I have to say is my message to the New Orleans Saints, man, is just go full on, just run a full on triple option offense. Go old school 70s Nebraska football. And what I say, you make Latavius Murray the fullback, you make Alvin Kamara the halfback, and you put Thomas in the slot, and you just you just spend the whole day running the ball down Atlanta's throat. Now, Atlanta actually does have a pretty decent run defense, but it didn't matter in the last game. I don't think it's going to matter in this game either. Obviously the pass defense is a little bit weaker for on the Falcons side. So I think Michael Thomas and Jared Cook are actually decent starts this week. I would definitely start them. It's going to be a better passing game for Taysom, who really barely passed the ball at all last week in Denver. The New Orleans defense, though, is super stout. And it's bad matchups across the board for Atlanta. And a couple weeks ago, I made Gurley a sit on the last New Orleans game. And guess what? He's a sit again this week, man. He only got 4 points last time they played. And I still don't think he's healthy. Would sit that entire backfield as well. So the only one that I really would start on Atlanta, even though it's a bad matchup, is Calvin Ridley. I think he's good to go. And again, Julio, still injured, still dealing with a hamstring. Did not play today in practice. Not a good sign, man. Keep him on your bench. He's been a huge disappointment this year as well. Been dealing with that hamstring injury since like week 1, and has just really hindered his ability. I was already kind of cool on Julio just because of his age, but you can kind of see here, I mean, what you're going to see from here on out, man, going forward, is his value is going to slip every year. It's I call it, he's on the plateau right now, but it's going to be the slow slide. And I think just from here on out, you just don't need to bother with Julio Jones for your fantasy team, because I don't think he's going to provide enough value relative to his draft position, because he's got the big name and he's sliding down the hill as far as his output goes, his potential, his upside, his ceiling. And so anyway, that's just for next year. So let's move on. Sunday afternoon games. We got the 4-7 Giants at the 8-3 Seahawks. So Seattle is always an easy defense. They've been a really easy defense this year. I got to say, man, I like the Giants starting the Giants. I mean, obviously Gallman, he's been doing really pretty good. But Sterling Shepard and why am I drawing a blank on his name? I don't have it written down here right now. But Evan Ingram, I think he's a start too. There's some good options here, and especially if Daniel Jones is able to play. He is also dealing with a hamstring injury. But if he's able to play, I'll have even more confidence in these players. But even so, Seattle can't stop anybody. So just go ahead and play. On the other side, man, Russell Wilson actually has a really tough matchup. It's the fourth toughest matchup. Fourth toughest matchup, the Giants defense. But I tell you what, I'm not going to sit him. But he's been kind of disappointing the past few weeks and kind of sucks. It's because of him that one of my FFPC teams did not make the playoffs. I was like right in the thick of it to win the fourth playoff spot based on points in one of my leagues, and that 10-point week that he got back in week 11 just freaking killed me, and I ended up missing it by like 20 points. The guy that made it scored 20 more fantasy points this season than I did. So, I was right there though. I was right there. But anyway, no sits on the Seahawks side. It's not a daunting matchup or anything like that. All right, so we got the 7-4 Rams at the 6-5 Cardinals, and one thing they're talking about today is all four NFC West teams making the playoffs, which I think is definitely a possibility, but they keep cannibalizing each other. No one can string together two consecutive wins against two opposing NFC West games. It's just they're all trading off. So, Rams have 4 losses. The Cardinals have 5. I think the Niners have 6 losses now. And, the Seahawks are only have 3 losses. So they're actually in the best shape right now. But my only sit on the Rams side is Tyler Higbee, as Arizona is 7th against the position, which is funny because last year, Arizona had they were the best defense to start a tight end against. The best. You got so many points when you started a tight end against Arizona, but now they've actually improved on that position. Now, on the flip side, man, the Cardinals, they are a risky bet this week, man. Rams defense is daunting. Top 10 against quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers. They are tough. They do not allow you to score a lot of points. But I really don't think I can sit any Cardinals players, but just know that. Know that it's a tough matchup. If you have a better option, maybe take that option. Like I have a situation in one of my leagues where I have Christian Kirk, and I don't really know if I have any better options available than him, but I'm going to take a look again and just to make sure, because if I do, I think I'll put that person in instead of Christian Kirk because it's going to be a tough game. Next up, we got the 5-6 Patriots versus the 3-8 Chargers. Right now, there are some matchups that I like. So on the Patriots side, I like the Patriots backfield right now. Damian Harris and James White. First of all, those are the only 2 healthy guys, right? Rex Burkhead is not playing, and the other guy who I'm drawing a blank on his name right now isn't playing either. Doesn't look like. So these are the 2 main guys. I think they're both good options for this week. But I don't like Cam Newton. I don't trust him, even though it's a good matchup. The New England receivers, I don't trust them. That's a tough matchup. They have bottom 5 matchups for the New England receivers. Now on the other side, on the Chargers side, man, I think Justin Herbert is a sit. New England is 8th against quarterbacks, and Hunter Henry is a sit as it's a bottom 5 matchup for him as well. But I do like Keenan Allen. I do like Austin Eckler. I do like Mike Williams. Those guys I think are good. So have no problem starting them. I got Keenan Allen starting in one of my championship games as well. I need a big game out of him. So hopefully that'll happen. Eagles 3-7-1 at the Packers 8-3. Now on the surface, you're thinking like, wow, this is going to be a Packers blowout. And it could very well end up that way. But I got to tell you, man, it's tougher than you think for the Packers. Now, first of all, Miles Sanders is a start this week. All right, he's got a top 3 matchup. I think he's going to be good. You might even be able to start Boston Scott in a flex if you really desperately need to start someone in a flex. That would be very much a desperation play. But it's a good matchup for both those guys, so I think they're good. I do think Dallas Goedert is a sit. Now, Dallas Goedert's coming off a great game last week, but Zach Ertz probably back, probably playing. Now, if Zach Ertz does not play, I'd still play Dallas Goedert, and I actually have him in one of my leagues, so I'm probably going to start him anyway. But it is a bottom 3 matchup, so tough matchup. Now, on the flip side here, for the Packers, all right, Philly D held Russell Wilson to 14 fantasy points last week. They're the 7th best defense against the position. So I think Aaron Rodgers is a sit. I think, Aaron Rodgers has been red hot, man. He's been playing really, really well. But this week, I think he is a sit for fantasy. Likewise, the Philly D is also top 7 against running backs. And Aaron Jones has not been as prolific as he was to start the season. I think it's a tough start for Aaron Jones as well, though I'm not sure I would sit him. And I probably wouldn't sit Aaron Rodgers either, unless you got a decent alternative, right? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. What's your alternative? Now, the one matchup I do really like on the Packers side of the ball is Robert Tonyan. Decent matchup, and he's gotten a touchdown in each of the past 2 weeks. I love that. So Robert Tonyan, definitely a start. Sunday Night Football, we got the 4-7 Broncos at the 10-1 Chiefs. At least the Broncos will have a quarterback this week, but it's not going to matter. Man, the Chiefs are going to destroy the Broncos. Oh, boy. One thing to watch for is the weather. At this time of year especially, I checked the forecast. They're saying partly cloudy, temperatures around freezing, so not too bad. It's not going to be it should be a pretty good game. And Drew Lock is back. I'm not starting him. I think the Denver Bronco receivers all need to be sat. Chiefs are 4th against that position. The only Broncos I would start are Noah Fant and Melvin Gordon. I think those are the 2 startable assets. And here's something that's funny. Travis Kelce has a bottom 10 matchup, but are you going to sit him? I'm not. I got him in one of my championship games. I stacked Mahomes with Kelce, and let me tell you, I've been loving that all season. It's great. It's a great combo. Start all the Chiefs with confidence. They're going to be good. It's going to be a good game. And I'm hoping that Mahomes and Kelce rides me to a fantasy championship. Oh, and also in those fantasy championships, in one game I have Kelce, in the other game my opponent has Kelce. So again, I need him to have a good game, but not too good a game, and not a bad game. I want him to have. I need the points. I want to get the win. And then on Monday Night Football, we got 2 games. We got a doubleheader. All right. So the first one is the 4-7 Washington football team at the 11-0 Steelers. Now, I just have to say, man, last week Antonio Gibson got it done, man. 3 touchdowns. Absolutely amazing. He's been very good this year. One of the best rookie running backs for this year for fantasy football. I didn't take him in any of my leagues because I was just not a believer in the Washington offense. And of course, they've had so much upheaval, but he's done really well. But I got to tell you this, man, he is not going to repeat the feat against the Steelers. They are 2nd best run defense in the league. Antonio Gibson is a sit. You got to sit him. The only Washington player that I would start is Terry McLaurin, and even that's a tough matchup. I mean, really, the Steelers are totally legit defense. They are a legit 11-0 team, even though they've had a great schedule this year. Man, just fantastic. Now, on the other side, man, the Washington defense is no pushover, man. They rank top 10 against receivers and the running backs, but I'm not sure I can sit anyone on Pittsburgh right now. Now, obviously Connor is out. So it's going to be Benny Snell, but just the workhorse, the volume level that Snell can get makes me want to start him, but just know that it is a bad matchup. It's a tough matchup for him. And I don't think, I certainly wouldn't sit Juju, and I wouldn't sit DeAndre Washington. Maybe Chase Claypool might be worth a sit this week. But again, this looks like this could be a defensive struggle game, low scoring game, and not great for fantasy on either side. Finally, we've got the 8-3 Bills at the 5-6 Niners. Niners got that improbable win against the Rams with their totally depleted roster. I mean, just a shocking win over what the team that I thought had the most momentum in the NFC West, which was the Rams. But do you think they can do it again against the Bills? Again, the Bills doing very well. There's not a lot of injuries to speak of. So the San Francisco defense ranks top 10 against all fantasy positions. So I'm not really keen on starting a lot of Bills, but I think Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, obviously you can start them. Buffalo is top 10 against wide receivers. So I think Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk are sits. But other than the receivers, Buffalo defense is not that good. So, I mean, if you want to start Mostert or something like that, I think that's good. So that's it, man. That's all the games, and those are my starts and sits. So, thank you very much for watching. And if you have any questions about these players or any other players, please leave them in the comments down below. Please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And I'm going to be a nervous wreck this weekend with my 2 championship games. I mean, the nice part is I'm in the money no matter what happens, but I'd really like to make some big money for Christmas, man. For Christmas, for the family, right? That's what it's all about. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. Good luck in your Week 13 games. Hopefully this week we will not get any of those crazy COVID postponements. I mean, geez, Week 12 seemed like it lasted for 3 weeks. It was so long. But anyway, everybody have a good rest of your week. Good luck in Week 13, and we will talk to you next time. See you later, everybody.